For the longest time, the thought was that if you bought a house and owned land, that was the pinnacle of success. Your house was your savings account, it was your retirement, it was your investment. And once it was paid off, all bets were off. You were finally financially free. But in today's housing market, especially for Gen Z, I feel like that dream is completely gone. And I'm not being figurative when I say that. I mean, literally, that dream is gone. Because here's a stat that most people aren't talking about that's hidden in Canada's housing data: 81%. And I'm going to get into what that 81% represents right now. By the end of this video, you'll see that there's actually a structure in place to make sure that Gen Z doesn't own a home with a yard and land. So that old adage that just work hard, save up, buy a house, own land, and it'll set you free, it's a dream we've been selling to Gen Z that's straight up a lie. Because 81% of all new homes under construction are condos and apartments. And so think about what this does to communities, what this does to neighborhoods, what this does to human connection. If you're living 20 something, 30 something year old in a condo, chances are you're not even knowing your neighbors. Chances are you're not having kids. Chances are you're not building a community of sorts, and it's all by design. And here's another stat people don't want you to hear. Less than 50% of condos and apartments are owner occupied, meaning the majority are actually tenants. And of course they're tenants because the mortgages and the mortgage payments are so astronomical. Some studies say that by 2030, mortgage payment for a one-bedroom condo in downtown Toronto will be over $4,000 a month. And so who's owning these condos? It's previous generations, Gen X, some millennials, baby boomers. And so it's a wealth transfer from Gen Z to previous generations. And this creates a psychological break for Gen Z. For many Gen Z, they feel like they are not playing this game correctly, that the game is rigged against them. Think about this: 53% of Gen Z say that they're faking financial stability. And it's because the reality is really harsh. The performance of wealth becomes much more easier to show. And I see this all the time going out to bars and clubs and restaurants. It's so expensive. I mean, who can afford multiple drinks on any given night? It's almost like an investment in your night that you have to save up for. But I'm really thinking about the future generation and what the next few decades look for them. You know, for the boomers and Gen X and maybe even some millennials, you were able to get mortgage free into your mid to late 40s, 50s, and then you'd have a good runway into your retirement with your asset of your home. But that's not the case anymore. In this new world, Gen Z may be renting into their 40s and 50s and may have no land, no equity, no home at all. And I'm not saying that owning a home is the pinnacle to success for everyone in every situation. But what I am saying is that home ownership or building wealth towards your own home does a psychological a trick, I guess, in the mind. It feels like you're owning something and you're working towards paying it off. And if you remove that for the individual, if you remove that sense of ownership, that sense of working towards something, maybe cutting expenses, living below your means to work towards something, you have this long-term vision of where your life is going to go and the investment you're making into the community and into the country by paying off your mortgage. That decision to pay off your mortgage kind of ripples out. It's about your investment back into the country, really, because you believe in it so much. But if you remove that from young people, if you remove the idea of home ownership from young people, the idea that they could ever pay it off from young people, I can understand why they are very critical of institutions, leading to massive mistrust and distrust, feeling like the economy is rigged against them, feeling like housing has been rigged against them, something that they'll never own. And that right there, that terrifies me. That means that our very system of what we tell people to aspire to could be crumbling right before our eyes. Perhaps Gen Z will rewrite the playbook on so many different things, but in order to do that means that we would need to go through some harrowing experiences first. And that scares me. But it's not all doom and gloom. I do think there are things and policy levers the government can pull to help Gen Z along. For example, I think if you're Gen Z and you want to buy your condo or buy your first place, maybe there's some relief to help with good credit and a lot down. Maybe the government could help with the down payment. Maybe there are certain property tax income relief tax credits for Gen Z. Maybe there are other incentives that the government can put in place specifically for Gen Z who are looking to purchase their first home. And also, maybe previous generations need to stop selling this idea of a house, a yard, two-car garage, etc. That dream for so many is long gone. And Gen Z should stop feeling guilty that they can afford that. They can't afford that. That dream is for very few people now with a large bank account. So, the way I see the future going is that there will be more high rise condos in our urban centers. I remember seeing a plan for Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal to have many more high rises to compete with other international cities around the world. The globe is getting more urban, there's more urban density. So, I think overall, everyone is going vertical, not horizontal in housing. And I think that's the new reality, perhaps, that Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and future generations will need to come to terms with. But it's interesting to me that a lot of the stats that I've shared aren't really discussed more broadly. And I think we need to be talking about it some more. So if you're liking this content, hit that like button, subscribe, tell your friends this is the place where we can engage in difficult conversations, but essential conversations right here in Canada. Thanks, everyone. I'll catch you in the next one.